Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TVO. On today's episode, we're doing Star Wars Visions Season 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So we'll start with Star Wars Visions, because that's the one I saw first. And Season 2, pretty good. I actually really enjoyed Season 2. My favorite episodes were Sif, which was the first one. Journey to the Dark Head, which was the fifth episode. And what was the other one that I really liked? The Spy Dancer, which was the sixth episode. Those were my top three episodes of Star Wars Visions. I liked all of them. I didn't have any problem with any of them. I think some were just decent. But those were like the three that I really enjoyed. And yeah, I don't know what to say really. I love the art styles of some of these shows. Like, I like Aardman's one, which was I Am Your Mother, which was about a little pilot trying to do a race with her mum, and the mum's embarrassing, and it's just like, I don't want to have my embarrassing mum fly with me in this parent-student race, and it felt very Aardman. Because the art style of claymation, which I can't tell if it was like, I assume Aardman's kind of like gone away from like full stop motion and kind of doing like the claymation but CGI appeal. I still don't know if they do full claymation, but it was nice. It wasn't the best one. I feel like it was a very simple story that like you can show a kid and they go, yep. Makes sense. My parents are always going to embarrass me, but that doesn't mean they're not good, and it's not worth having them there. Then let's talk about the Sith, because that's one of the better ones. That's one of the best ones, in my opinion. Where a former Sith apprentice called Lola has rejected the dark side and lives on solitude on a desolate planet with her droid E2. And she's trying to paint stuff, but dark smudges keep coming into it, and she doesn't know why. At first, I didn't know why. I thought she was like going to turn to the dark side. I don't know, because I don't think you get she's a former Sith. I think it's very implied because she's got an Imperial droid. But then so does Cassian Andor, and he's not on the dark side. He's on the light. Yeah, I like that little droid. That little droid was cool. I like how it has a little gun in its face. But yeah, and then it's very simple because they're all like 15-minute episodes. I don't think anything's longer than 20, and so they all just kind of the reason I like this one is because there's one shot where it's like three Sith and they're standing, and it looks like a shot from Destiny. It looks very Destiny-like, where they have the helmets on, they're standing there, they've got like their lightsabers out and stuff like that, and they just come, and it's a shot on a planet. It just looks so Destiny-like. And then I think it ends a similar way to the Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul fight in one of those shows, one of the TV animated things, where it's like this big build-up and you think it's going to be a big epic fight, and then it just kind of ends with one cut, which I like, because the fight is kind of like a duel, or like a chess match, where there's you build all the moves in your head, but you know if you play a certain way, you know you've lost or you know you've won. And so, like, you can't beat it in that sense. It's like you've planned all your moves, and the other person's planned all their moves, and one person will come out on top, basically, depending on who has the upper hand and who starts and whatnot, and who knows the playing field well enough. So yeah, that one was really good. Screecher's Reach. There's one moment in this that I think the art style is good on this one. Didn't love the characters. I think they were kind of cool. Not really super interesting. The ghost in the cave thing. Okay, so basically there's like a little, like they're in a sweatshop basically, and they break out, and then they go on a little drive, and they try and find a cave because one of the main lead girl is getting led there by a stone or some sort of locket thing that she has, and it's like, go to this cave. You need to go to this cave. And so you're like, oh, okay. And then they run into the ghost, which is like the haunted thing in the cave. and it's an elderly Sith apprentice apparently, or it's an elderly Sith. And then it's got like a really cool like that design of the witch, the ghost thing. When it's in like it's scratched like paint, like pencil scratching design. That's really cool. And then it turns out that the voice in the necklace that is to be communicating with a Sith, and they needed to basically she kills the ghost because she gets the lightsaber and kills the ghost. And then it turns out that the person who was communicating with them was a Sith Lord. And then it's like, you need to come with me, and I'm going to train you, and you need to leave your friends. And so the little girl does. And you're like, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. I was expecting either her to not leave her friends and say, oh, no, I have my friends. But she's like, nah, I'm going to abandon my friends. And then, yeah, and now she's going to become a Sith Lord. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. I like that they do. This is what I think I like about Star Wars Visions is I can't predict what the plot's going to be or like the ending's going to be because they can do whatever the fuck they want and it does not matter. They could kill Darth Vader in one of these and you'd be like, oh shit. Because these are all non-canon and they don't matter at all. They can do whatever they want and they don't have to make it tie into the canonical Star Wars thing. And so you can have episodes where you're like, oh, yeah, two Siths fighting, and they kill each other and it doesn't matter, and that's it. Or you can have it where there's a little girl and she now is being trained by a Sith, and you're like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting her to do, like, turn to the light side. And then you can have episodes where they're just doing a race in a school, and you're like, okay, that one I know the ending's going to be they're going to win because they're going to overcome the bully parent and the bratty child. But, like, I didn't expect them to have a bra fly down from the sky. And I feel like this really should be the way that Marvel does What If. Because, one, it is so interesting to see different art styles every time, rather than the same art style for What If. Because What If, I was like, oh, okay, that art style really isn't that good. And I feel like what they should just do is rather than have one studio and then a bunch of stories written by the same people going, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. They should just do what they do for Star Wars Visions and just give it to a bunch of studios to tell their own story and how they want to do What If. What if Captain America decapitated Iron Man at the end of Civil War? What are the repercussions of that? And then have a dark story or like a light story or whatever. Because this is just a really cool, interesting way of showcasing like stuff in the world. What else? So that was Screecher's Reach. Episode 3 was In the Stars, where I like this art style. I didn't love the characters. But you had two sisters who their home planet was basically conquered by the Empire, and they started polluting the planet, and the planet was like a planet that was really... It's an environmental message, and like how you don't pollute the planet, and then they start stealing all the water, and now the kid and all the parents are dead, and they're the last two survivors on this planet, because the parent of them tried to fight the Empire and died. And the mom was force sensitive, so the kids are going to be force sensitive. And so then what are they trying to do? They break into the thing to get water, or the older sister does, and telling the little sister, hey, stay there. And the little sister's the rebellious one who doesn't want to listen and wants to fight, and the other one's defeated and whatnot. And then it's like, oh no, you got to go save your sister. And I was, and then yeah. It was fine. I liked it. I liked the storytelling through the stars of like the handprint, where they just have all the handprint art come up. That was cool. That was a good episode. We've talked about I Am Your Mother, so that was episode 4. Journey to the Darkhead. So this one is an adolescent monk named Ara believes that the statues on her home planet, whose stones are around its base, have foretelling abilities. Controlled both light and dark. And so she basically leaves her home planet and goes to join the Rebels or the Jedis. But she doesn't have force powers. She's basically a mechanic. So she's working on that. She requests to go to the thing to destroy the statues because she believes if you destroy the dark side statue, the dark side won't exist anymore. Because the stones basically when the rain falls on the statues, one's dark and one's light, and then the stones have a picture on, like they form a picture but briefly, and then they can basically try they foresee the future or the present or the past, and these people write down that, but they don't tell anyone. And this little girl basically goes, no, I'm going to tell people and change the future or change this course because the dark side is bad. So she then goes to the Jedi Council and requests to go and blow up the statues and whatnot. And the Jedi's like, yeah, sure, fuck it. But we're going to send you with a Jedi. And the Jedi is a young boy who lost his master at the hands of a sadistic Sith Lord. And then he lives in fear and trauma, and he's really mad and whatnot. And like the Sith basically leaves him alive and goes, we'll meet again, and then you can join me. And he's like, no. And then so they go to the statues. They get flanked by the Sith guy, and they have a big old fight on the statues. The girl's still going to try and blow up the statues and whatnot. And then she realizes, oh, they both have light and dark in them when the lightsabers are smashing and it's black, red and blue. And she realizes the vision she saw was what's happening, and she's like, oh. And then they don't blow up the statues, but the Jedi wins, and then they escape, basically. And then they decide to continue journeying on together. I think it was really cool. I like this one. The art style was really nice. I think this was my favorite art style of this one. Yeah. I think this was the favorite art style because it was clean. I really liked the cleanness of this one. And I liked the lightsaber fight. It was really cool seeing the red and blue scatter around the statues. Then we have the Spy Dancer, which is about like a club thing, a high-class club where stormtroopers frequently come in, and the primary person who's in charge is using it as a way to put trackers on stormtroopers so that they can basically tell the rebels where they are and what their positioning is and whatnot, so that they can help. But they've got to basically cater to the scum of the Empire. So they do dancing, and it's like cool. I can't tell if she's a Jedi, like has force powers, because she does a lot of like cape, like floaty shit, and I don't think she is, because otherwise they would have like killed her. So I'm guessing it's just like another thing where she like magic or something like that isn't the Force, I guess, and they just kind of allow it. But yeah, so she has either a little what is it? She has a backstory where her kid gets taken by this one general, and she then basically spots someone in that uniform sitting in the crowd. And she basically goes, look, I'm going to destroy this operation to try and kill this guy. And then she basically goes to kill him and then realizes, oh, has a freak out. You don't know why. And then it's revealed, like after a little fight and whatnot, and like an escape and whatnot, that she's refusing to fight as well, this guy. And you're like, why is this happening? And then you realize, oh, it's the kid grown up and has been integrated into the Empire, and she then gives him a locket thing to basically, because she escapes, but she doesn't get a kid. And then it's like, well, leaving him confused, and he doesn't know why. Because she doesn't tell him, she just basically tells the story of a kid who got taken. The Empire took her kid, and by a man wearing that exact uniform and whatnot, and then she has to run away and escape, and then so he's basically got I think this one was cool. I like the dancing, I like the plot. I think it's cool, and I like the other teenage character, like teenage girl in it, who's like the apprentice. I don't know if she's the daughter. I don't think it's revealed if she's the daughter, like she had another kid, because she's a lot younger. So it could be like her brother was the missing one. But yeah, I don't know. It was cool. I like this one. Then you have Bandits of Gloak, which I think is the one that kind of reminds me of Clone Wars. I think this one was fine. I just don't love this art style. But yeah, it's a bunch. Basically a brother and sister are escaping on a train because their home has basically been ransacked by the Empire or something like that. And then they're on a train, and the little girl is force sensitive, and the brother's trying to desperately hide that from everyone. But she does a mistake, takes a flute out of his pocket because she wants to play the dad's flute, and then all of some of the passengers spot that and tell the guards on the Empire, the clone troopers, or the stormtroopers, or whatever the hell they are, on the train. And then they got to escape. And then some rebels attack the train. And then they kind of get off at the next station. And then they go to a place. And then this other guy turns up and goes, "Hey, look, I heard that there was a force-sensitive person here. I'm here to kill." And then an old lady comes in and beats the shit out of that guy. And then basically goes, "Hey, look, you got to leave your brother because we're going to train up you, and you've got powers, and we need you." And then she leaves the flute behind that was their dad's. And I'm like, okay, this one's fine. They love lollipops and shit like that. I just didn't love it. I think it was fine. I think it was just like, I just don't love the art style. I think the art style really threw me off because it just reminded me of Rebels, and I'm like, ugh, I don't care about Rebels. Not Rebels, Clone Wars. Then we have The Pit, which was pretty good. I liked it. It's very simple. Basically, the Empire forces slaves to dig a pit to get kyber crystals, and then once they've found all the kyber crystals that there are, they leave the pit, and the pit's massive, and they leave all the slaves in the pit, and then they basically abandon it, and they basically, because they scavenged the planet, they basically built a city further away in the distance to house everyone, and like the social elite and the rich and everything are there, and there's just this pit on the outskirts, and they've just left all of the slaves in it. And so one kid basically climbs out with the help of this mole thing, something armadillo, I can't remember what it was, and basically like an alien basically, and basically runs into the town to basically ask for help. And then this one was dark because basically what happens is he basically does that. He starts telling people, then the stormtroopers basically stun him and drag him back to the pit, and then they basically just toss him in there to his death. And then his little sister, or a little girl who he knows, basically starts, because the brother like follow the light basically, and then they basically start chanting follow the light, and then people in the city basically hear that because they're like, oh, what's this and whatnot, and then all of they basically overpower the stormtroopers who have got like blocking them, like the civilians and stuff, and then they start evacuating the pit. And then yeah, I liked it. It was yeah, it also reveals that the little girl's force sensitive because she has a little kyber crystal that her brother gave her, and it responds, and basically you can tell that because she holds, like, she forces it, like hovers in her hand. I like this one. I didn't expect them to kill the kid. It's always an interesting thing when they kill a kid. It's pretty dark. But yeah, they don't show it. They just, you hear the thud of the kid falling from the hole, like the top of the hole, and everyone's shocked and like horrified. And then it's like, no, if we have to follow the light and believe that people will come save us, but we just need to make it so that people know we're here. And yeah, and then we have Au's song, where it's like felt puppet things. Not puppets, because they're not like, it's just felt characters basically, which I like this one. I don't love it, but yeah, it's basically a little kid rabbit thing. It sings a lot, and when there's kyber crystals that have been tainted by the Sith, so they're red kyber crystals, because normally kyber crystals are blue, I think. I don't know, or white. I'm guessing. I don't know how kyber crystals work, but I'm assuming that kyber crystals are white. And then depending on the light or the dark or whatever inner channel you have, because when you touch them, they become a certain color. And so this planet is infested with red kyber crystals, and this planet has a way of purifying those crystals, but it takes a lot of hard work and effort and whatnot. And then this little girl's curious and wants to go and look and help and whatnot. And then she gets called by the crystals into the mines. And then there was a Jedi who wants help healing crystals who's around. And then, the little girl gets called to the mines by the crystals and then begins to sing. And then her dad interrupts because her dad's like, oh, no, you cause problems when you sing near these crystals or like open your mouth around these crystals, causing the cave to basically collapse. And then the Jedi turns up out of nowhere to basically save them, but can't protect them. And then the little girl realizes she must sing again to basically purify all the crystals and stop them from violently reacting. And then the dad finally lets the little girl go with the other Jedi to be trained. And I like this one. I think it was cool. But yeah, that's been all of the Star Wars Visions. I think it was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I hope they continue to keep making Star Wars Visions because it's nice to see cool art styles, different studios having different abilities to just make stories that ultimately don't matter but can be cool in that world. So now we move on to Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where we're basically reintroduced to our Guardians who have after the holiday special where they bought Nowhere, they're now building it up. Rocket Raccoon is singing and having a grand old sad sing. Peter Quill is depressed and drinking, and then basically that shot of Peter Quill being held by Nebula as all the other Guardians walk around is the beginning. And Peter Quill is not dead, he is drunk as fuck because he's sad about Gamora, and I thought that was great. And then, oh boy, and then what else happened? I like that. I like that they did that fake out with the trailer, because that's what I always like about Marvel trailers is they just put stuff in and fake it and make it so that you don't know what's actually happening, so you can never trust the trailers. Some trailers don't. Some trailers you can basically piece together it all, but most, if it's like a big thing, they don't put stuff in the trailers that really matters, or like they put I think most of the trailers is for the very beginning, like maybe some of the stuff is midway, but I don't think they reveal anything at the end stuff. And then basically Adam Warlock bursts into this into Nowhere to basically hunt down and grab Rocket, and then because Peter Quill is basically drunk and dumb and stupid and whatnot, because he's proper depressed and whatnot, he basically isn't at full capacity, so he blames himself when Rocket gets captured, because basically Nebula is the one who basically saves the day and stabs Adam Warlock, who then runs away and flees. And then basically Rocket gets critically wounded and is dying, and then they have a med pack thing, and a thing that will just magically heal you if you're injured. And then it turns out Rocket has a kill switch in him that if anything tries to save or tamper with his body, he'll die, which hasn't come up in any of the other Guardians movies, but I don't know. It seems a bit like a thing that would happen in any of the movies, but yeah. So they basically Rocket's lying basically on the brink of death for most of this movie, which I didn't see coming because I was like, oh, they're gonna focus on Rocket. They're gonna have Rocket be the one spearheading this, because it's kind of implied in the trailers that he's gonna go meet his girl, the Otter character Lila, and it's they're gonna have a big old reunion and whatnot. No, all of that stuff is. Oh yeah, by the way, full spoilers. I forgot about that. I should put spoiler warning at the beginning. If I haven't done that, then yeah, I'll add a spoiler warning because I did not add that. Yeah, full spoilers. All of those characters, Lila's dead because it's all flashbacks, and turns out the High Evolutionary basically was never gonna have Rocket and his friends inhabit a planet. He was just basically using them as a stepping stone to his next creation, which also he doesn't let have a planet, because he's basically obsessed with trying to create Second Earth or whatever the fuck it is, to basically house the best life forms he can create. And he's jealous that Rocket basically figured out how to fix his problem that he was having with anger of the creatures. and then he wants to cut Rocket's brain up, and then basically is going to kill Rocket, grab his brain so he can maybe put it into himself so he has the brain capacity to figure out what was wrong. Like, no other creature he's created has that ability. Rocket is unique in that way. And in the process of Rocket basically determining, oh no, I need to save all my friends and get them out of here, they all die because the High Evolutionary shoots them. And then Rocket rips off his face and then escapes. And that's Rocket's backstory and stuff like that. And that's revealed throughout the film. And that was fucking dark, man. Like, it gets real dark in those scenes. Like, it's a little rabbit with, like a big metal jaw and, like, robot spider legs. And a walrus in a wheelchair. And Lila's who's also with, like, robot arms. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, yeah, buddy, having fun. And then they just die. And Rocket's like, fuck. And that's Rocket's tragic backstory that's been hinted at throughout the movies. But yeah, so whilst Rocket is like comatose and we're getting all those flashbacks to that, the Guardians basically discover that his body was basically created by some company. I can't remember the name of it. Orgo Corp or something? Organ Corp? Something like that, which is the big fleshy thing in the trailer. And so they got to go there to find whether or not there's a way to disable the kill switch. And everyone's like, where's Peter Quill's helmet? And why is he not wearing his helmet? Apparently, because of the fact that they're rushing, his helmet is in his desk, and his rocket boots he doesn't need anymore because they've got jetpacks now that Rocket built them. And also not Gamora. Apparently Nebula's arm was built by Rocket, which is cool. Nebula's arm is like freaking powerful in this movie. Can turn into a blade. Rocket, like it's fucking mad. It's like nanotech arm. Yeah. So they basically go there. Turns out they need to break into it, so they need the help of the Ravengers. And turns out Gamora is on that ship with the Ravengers because she left with the Ravengers after, or like teamed up with the Ravengers after in Endgame. And so Peter Quill's like shocked to find out that Nebula has basically still been communicating with Gamora, and that's how that happens. What else? Oh, yeah. I would just fall back to Groot. Yeah, Groot's body is still the way it was in Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, but Groot has sick forms. Like, he has a Chimera form, which is pretty sick. Then at the very end, in the end credits, his form is cool because he's like a big, massive, fucking bulky dude now. Yeah. So I don't like that Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special design, but I liked all the other designs of Groot. I think all the other designs were pretty cool. So that's a plus. I think that the other ones are much better, and it's a shame we don't get to see them for longer. Yeah. So they break into the organization thing, and they basically do a little flirt heist thing, and they have some hijinks and whatnot. I think it was good. Nathan Fillion's wearing a big, weird, fleshy suit thing. Like, all of the guards are wearing, like, big, fleshy suits. And I like the joke about, because Nathan Fillion has a guy who he hates and is dumb and just says dumb things, and then Peter Quill's like, yeah, no, this guy, he's special, and the other guy, and Nathan Fillion goes, yeah, I've got one of them. And then it's just like, God, I fucking hate this dude. And it's just like, oh yeah, that's actually really fun. It was really funny. I like that. This film was really funny whilst also tragic. Like, it balances the humor, and it's not like Thor Ragnarok where it's like tonal whiplash. This one balances it pretty well. I don't think all the jokes land, but like, there's some good jokes in this movie, and there's some good, like, solid, like, emotional stuff. But yeah, they basically break in, find out that they basically need to get away and escape, and then they realize that there's a guy who was there who wiped the file, and they need to go and get that file from that guy who's under the High Evolutionary, one of the henchmen. And then they basically fly to where the High Evolutionary is, which is, where is it? It's on the secondary Earth planet thing with all the rabbit people and all the furry people, where all of the creatures basically are like, animals. And then they all drive like, but it's revealed that the High Evolutionary went to Earth and enjoyed like the music and the things. Oh, that's the other thing. We find out that Rocket is actually from Earth because the High Evolutionary basically took a bunch of raccoons from Earth and then experiments on them. So that's why Rocket is a raccoon, because it's basically because he was taken from Earth as a kid. So yeah. That's why the High Evolutionaries modeled that place on Earth and called it Second Earth and filled it with animal people, because he's been to Earth before and likes the culture and stuff, but hated the humans on it and wanted to make better stuff. And then so they basically go to there. Peter Quill and Groot go in to find the guy who has the code, whilst Gamora and Nebula Gamora is stuck in the ship because she doesn't care. She doesn't want to be there. She's basically been hired by the Guardians to help out, but doesn't really care about any of them because she's not the same Gamora. And then Drax is being Drax. I think this is the one speaking of Drax, this is the one Guardians of the Galaxy movie where I don't mind Drax since the first one. I mean, in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he's got one good scene, but everything else I find him kind of annoying. And then I think in Infinity War, he's used well, but I still don't love his jokes. And then this one, I kind of enjoyed him. I didn't hate him. That's not against Dave Bautista. I think Dave Bautista is a really good actor, but I just don't love the character of Drax. But this one, I don't mind him. I think he's well utilized in this one because he's not got not a lot to do, but he's not horribly annoying like I've found him in the past. Because they kind of take the piss out of him. Because there's a moment where Nebula and Mantis are like arguing about Drax being an idiot. And it's like, Gamora's like, not Gamora, Nebula's like, this guy's a fucking idiot. And Mantis is like defending him, but also still calling him an idiot. And it's not his fault that he's an idiot. Rocket not Rocket. Yeah, they've gone to get Rocket's override code thing. And it turns out the High Evolutionary just basically goes, well, nope, I'm going to blow up this planet because they're not perfect. And so it basically wipes out an entire human population of rabbit, like alien furry creatures, and just destroys an entire planet. Also, that's the thing, Adam Warlock basically turned up with his mum, who turns out to be working with the High Evolutionary. And it turns out Adam Warlock was removed from the cocoon too early so that he could hunt down. And so basically he's a man-child. He doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And he's learning still, but he was meant to be the best, but he's been taken out too early, and now he's a dumb man-child. And basically just follows orders, but does them terribly. And he has some good bits, because I like the moment where he just melts a guy, and it's like torture him a bit, and just melts this guy, and then the ladies next to him just look terrified. And he's like, well, what else was I meant to do? And it's just like, fuck. And then, they've turned up, and so his mum, the golden lady from the second movie, basically dies, and and then Adam Warlock basically turns up at the end. Yeah, Adam Warlock's not super in this movie. He's kind of like secondary. He's just kind of like a thing to push certain characters and stuff around, and then be there kind of at the end to help do stuff. So they blow up the planet, and then it's like, shit. Peter Quill, basically, you see the moment where he jumps out the building with that guy, and it turns out that his plan to escape that was get Groot to basically turn into a glider and grab him, and then glide to safety. And all the Guardians think he's an idiot, so didn't think he'd be able to escape, so they all climb back on the ship to basically try and save him. Because he doesn't tell anyone his plan, he's just like, trust me, I'll be able to get out. And so they're like, no, you're an idiot. And then it's like, I like this movie as Peter Quill, because basically he's not at his best, but he's still basically, people doubt him. So he uses that to his advantage. He's like, because it's like the moment where he's like flirting with the person to get into the sound, like the system so that he can make an announcement. And it's like, oh, no, I'm not that stupid. I just wanted to hack into your thing to get access to your because he basically says, oh, can I do a speech to all the security guys because they're gonna blow up or like shoot all his friends and stuff. And he basically goes, look, can I use this to make an announcement and a speech to these guys so that they don't kill everyone and let us go? And she's like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, yeah, I'm not that stupid, and uses it to override the guys' suits. And I think that's clever, because it's just like, yeah, she was totally into me, but I'm not an idiot. I know how to play the situation to my advantage. And then he does that with the jumping out the building and escaping in the glider Groot, basically. And the others, Nebula, Mantis, and Drax basically have climbed back in the ship because they want to save Peter. But Peter's not in there because no one's communicating. And then so they need to go back and get the others because the High Evolutionary basically captures them. Oh, and also there's a bunch of kids because all the Marvel movies seem to just have a bunch of kids turn up to need to be saved. It happened in Thor Ragnarok. It's happened in other ones, I'm pretty sure. There's just a bunch of kids now. It's in Black Widow. It's just like this thing where there's just a bunch of small children that are like the plot point of like being needed to be saved or they're being captured or something. I don't know I don't know why that's a thing that I've just seen a recurrence of. But yeah, that's just a weird thing. And then they basically get to the High Evolutionary. Rocket's saved because they've got the override code because of the guy who Peter Quill jumped out the window with. And you get the moment where Rocket's about to die. He has the Harry Potter white hallway thing, communication thing, where you're like in heaven, but you're talking to the person who you want to see. And he's talking to Lila, and Lila's like, it's not your time yet. And Rocket's like, but I want to go. And then Lila's like, no, it's not your time. You have stuff to do. And then Rocket awakens, is saved. Everyone's like, yay! But they need to go and save Nebula and Drax and Mantis and whatnot. And all the kids and all of the animals and stuff like that on the planet. On the planet? On the ship? We'll get to the planet. That's the thing. And then it's basically, yeah, we'll break in. We need a way to fight this guy. So they call Kraglin. And turns out Nowhere is a fucking spaceship. And yeah, they used Nowhere to basically blast the High Evolutionary ship and stuff and have an all-out war. And then the High Evolutionary's got a bunch of bird creature swarm things that he sends into Nowhere and whatnot, and to fight everyone. Got a bunch of weird creature things to fight. And then they have a sick hallway fight when they're breaking in to basically save everyone. And then yeah, then Rocket basically gets a moment to basically find the High Evolutionary, gets basically beaten up, and then it's like, no, I've got friends now. And then all the Guardians come in and save it, and then beat him up, and then Rocket basically, he doesn't kill him, I don't think, but just leaves him like beaten. And then they basically try and save all the kids. Basically, Nowhere's docked on the planet. Nowhere has been docked to the ship, and they're but it's not docked, but it's like they've made a little hole, and they've got to basically use Cosmo to basically keep it steady using the psychic powers of the dog, and basically seal up the gap between the ship and the planet so that they can basically transfer all the kids. And then Rocket goes and looks at the cages where he was captured and held, and goes and grabs all the little raccoon babies. And that's where he finds out that he was a raccoon from Earth. And then, yeah. I can't remember if that happens before or... No, I think that happens before he's captured by the High Evolutionary. Or, like, beaten by the High Evolutionary, and then all the Guardians come in and save him. Because I think it's that way around. And then he's like, no, we've got to save everyone. And they're like, but we saved all the kids. And then he's like, no, all the animals. And then you have the scene where all the animals and stuff are running and whatnot. And then Peter Quill... Everyone gets onto the thing except for Peter Quill. Peter Quill jumps, but the ship's moved, and so he's floating through space, and you think he's going to die because his face is swelling up, and he's been in space, and he doesn't have his helmet, and the gap's wide, and there's no sealing it. And Groot tries to reach out and grab him, but his things freeze and snap, so he can't grab him that way. And Adam Warlock has turned up at this point and saved people. And then Adam Warlock basically comes in and swoops in and pulls him back in. Oh, because Groot saved him. Groot saved Adam Warlock at some point. I can't remember when. But yeah, Adam Warlock was thankful for that, and then Groot says something, and Rocket translates it to he did it because... Oh, it was either Drax or Rocket. One of them translates. Someone translates for Groot to basically go... Yeah, I did it just because it was the right thing to do. And then Adam Warlock returns the favor and does it. And then the Guardians basically split up at the end after all of the happiness. Peter Quill's alive, and whatnot. No one dies in this movie, which is surprising, because it really set up like Rocket dying, or Drax dying, because Dave Bautista's done with it. And you could have killed Peter Quill, because that would have been the emotional core of the Guardians. And if you have him die, everyone else kind of splinters off. You can't kill Groot again, because Groot's already died in the first one, and you're like, well, he'll come back. But yeah, and then it kind of, everyone goes their own way. Rocket is now the head of the Guardians of the Galaxy, with Groot, Adam Warlock, Kraglin, Cosmo, and one of the a little girl from the selection of children from the High Evolutionaries thing. Probably the one that was running in that hamster wheel. And so yeah, he's now the Guardian of the Galaxy leader. Nebula is running nowhere with Dave Bautista's Drax, because Nebula basically saw Drax as a father when he was helping look after the children. And it's like, I need help here, because basically they had a whole thing where Nebula doesn't like Drax because he's an idiot and doesn't see him for what his purpose is. And she goes, you're not a destroyer, you're meant to be a father, which was nice. Mantis has realized that because she's always been doing what other people tell her to do, and all the other Guardians seem to hate her, she's like, well, I'm going to go away and do stuff on my own, because I've never done that before. And she's got an army of those weird tentacle things from the second movie that she basically saved Nebula and Drax from, because she was like, no, I don't want to fight them because they eat batteries, they don't eat humans, they only want to fight because they're scared. And so she calms them down and basically controls them and whatnot. Mantis is funny in this movie, because there's a moment where she basically makes a guard go, you're in love with Drax, and it's like, oh yeah, and the Drax is just like so done with it, because it just seems to be a regular occurrence thing that she's done. Also, she makes people dance and stuff like that. Yeah, she's good. I like Mantis. And then Peter Quill goes back to Earth, because Mantis basically has suggested Peter Quill never had closure on Earth, and that he never went to find his mother's father, his like grandfather, and like he could still be alive, and he never went to like get closure on that. And then so Peter Quill ends up hanging out with his grandfather, and then yeah, that's so the end credit is basically Peter Quill talking with his granddad and whatnot at the table eating breakfast. And then the other end credit is Rocket with the new Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. All in all, really enjoyed this. Marvel's back on top form. Fuck, that was scary. I closed everything, and I was really worried I'd closed all my... stopped the recording. That was terrifying. Jesus Christ. That is 50 minutes worth of recording gone, and I don't want to do it again. It's hard enough doing these on my own. But yeah. Fuck. Whew. Anyway, I'm gonna stop here whilst I don't have terrible luck and nothing shuts down. Yeah, I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 3. What's next? The Marvels is the next movie, but Secret Wars is the next TV show. So I'm hoping Marvel can keep the momentum of this. Also, this has really solidified the fact that James Gunn probably is the best choice for the DCU, because he can balance both the lighthearted and the dark stuff. And he's proven it with Peacemaker, he's proven it with the Guardians movies, he's proven it with the Suicide Squad. And he understands that these characters are the most important part. And yeah, so I'm hoping DC's doing some good stuff soon. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I don't know what's good. I don't know what I'm going to do for the next one. But yeah, there'll be another one at some point. I'll see you then. Goodbye.